Chapter 81. Song Ying asked curiously, "What's wrong? Miss Bai? Please get in." He Menglian asked nervously, "So, that you were invited by Qin Ming?" Song Ying said coldly, "Yes, what's wrong? Please don't take selfies next to our young master's car, or else you will be responsible for the consequences." When He Menglian saw the cold look in Song Ying's eyes, she was so frightened that she hurriedly withdrew her hand, not daring to say a word of dissatisfaction yet. Bai Yuchun actually recognized Song Ying. After all, she was the secretary of her life-saving benefactor, but she was surprised that Song Ying knew Qin Ming. She stepped forward and asked in confirmation, "The Qin Ming you are talking about, is he a junior student at the China Provincial University of Technology, Qin Ming?" Song Ying nodded and responded, "Yes, that's him." Zhao Fugui and the others sucked in a breath of cold air. How was this possible? How did Qin Ming know such a powerful person? He was a poor Panjun? The Tarsus lips? The poor man's wife and children were so poor. Xie Tao said jealously, "What an extravagant car, it would be great if I could go in and take a ride." The corners of Zhao Fugui's mouth twitched, feeling very uncomfortable that his girlfriend was attracted to other people, but his brilliance BMW was also without temper in the face of such a stretch. Leslie Xie Guangqin stammered, "Then, that Qin Ming, is he your who?" He Menglian echoed, "Yes, yes, how does Qin Ming know you? Isn't he a poor man?" Song Ying was expressionless and said, "It's not convenient to reveal what his relationship with our boss is. Please get in the car, Miss Bai." Bai Yuchun trusted Song Ying. After all, she had met her twice, and she wondered in her mind, Qin Ming knew Song Ying's boss, so did that mean Qin Ming knew the richest man in the world? In her heart, her admiration for Qin Ming grew. Could it be that her mother was saved because of Qin Ming? Seeing Bai Yuchun about to leave, He Menglian immediately tugged at He Mengu and said, "Hey, we are together, if you want to drive her, you will drive us together." "Right, sister. My son-in-law treated you to such a big meal, you have to give me a ride in that Rolls-Royce too." He Mengu, an honest rural woman, didn't know what to say. She was already intimidated by the two super luxurious cars and she said timidly, "Yes, yes." Song Ying said indifferently, "Sorry, only 2 people will be carried this time, there is no room for negotiation." "Ahu, do something." Boom! The driver and bodyguard Su Donghu got out of the car, a big man of 1 m 9, standing up and scaring He Menglian so much that her legs went weak. Zhao Fugui's face was ugly as he said, "Auntie, take mine." Xie Tao also said, "Mom, forget it, don't lose face. We can't afford to ride in a car like that." Xie Guangqin was silent, he didn't dare to say a word. Once he said a word, looking at the luxurious interior of the car door, spacious, like a cabin, there is a refrigerator, wine table, KTV, big bed, one can't help but wonder if that is still a car? This is certainly not a mobile luxury bedroom. Xie Guangqin took a fierce puff of his cigarette, his eyes were fixed on the Leslie, full of envy and jealousy. Maybe there are men who don't love Mercedes, but what man doesn't love Leslie? But He Menglian hugged her elder sister He Mengu to death and said, "No, I want to sit, I want to sit. We are 2 sisters, pure, you do Fugui's car, go on. That Qin Ming, he ate so much money from our Fugui, what's wrong with me taking a ride in his friend's car?" Su Donghu stepped forward and directly separated the 2 sisters, stopping He Menglian dead in her tracks, letting her spill her guts and just not letting her get into the car. Bai Yuchun pulled her mother into the car and went. The Rolls-Royce disappeared from their view in a flash of smoke. He Menglian was furious and cursed, "Old Xie, you bastard, why didn't you help just now? A Rolls-Royce, a custom-made stretch model. Why didn't you help me out with such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity?" Xie Guangqin said, that beauty's aura is so strong that I don't dare to go forward when I see her. What's the origin of that Qin Ming? He knows such a rich man. He Meng Lian was so angry that she stomped her feet. It's useless to say anything, I should have told Qin Ming to give us a ride too. It's all your fault, you don't even know how to please people with your foul mouth. Zhao Fugui looked on, his heart sour, his BMW was completely reduced to cannon fodder. He said glumly, Qin Ming, he's a poor bastard, I know him best, he's still wearing his working clothes in class and smells like pickles. Ah yes, he seems to know how to speculate in stocks, he should be speculating with someone, no matter what, he is still working for someone. Xie Tao hummed, that means, no matter what, it's also someone else's stuff, and trusting people with relationships. Oh, in order to pretend, let someone's big boss's secretary to transport people, how can this favor be returned? After hearing this, Xie Guangqin was inexplicably relieved in his heart and said, oh, so it's with someone who speculates on stocks. The stock market is just a temporary market. It's not as practical as doing business. Even if it's good now, you'll turn into a poor man at any time. He Meng Lian was still nagging at her, Leslie, you may never see one in your lifetime. My elder sister is in one, but I don't even have the chance to sit in one. Xie Tao felt that this car issue made Zhao Fugui be compared to her, and her mother was also preoccupied with super luxury cars, making her lose face, depressed, said, Mom, don't be angry, not all are still cars. You can still get the feeling of sitting in a villa and mansion. Besides, that is not the cousin's family, nor is it that poor. The pen shells are not a part of the house. The information is cut to the spring and the information is not a copy. But he Meng Lian just nagged, that one $10 million Rolls Royce is more expensive than a villa. And I can't be angry that she, he Mengu, is riding in it but I can't. How did her family meet the super rich again? Xie Tao said, rich people are also rich people, ah. He Meng Lian gritted her teeth and said, that can be compared? I blame old Xie for being useless and not being able to give birth to a son, so I can't hold my head up in my hometown. I've managed to do better in Guangzhou, but what if Bai Yuchun's demon charmed a tycoon boss and became a mistress or a mistress? In the future, my sister's family will have to step on my head again. Xie Guangqin was exceptionally speechless. Zhao Fugui's tisk face was dark, he was even extremely uncomfortable in his heart. Was this a complaint that he didn't have enough money? The old man endured heavy bleeding, his credit card was maxed out, and the bill of 88,000 was paid. What else do you guys want? Zhao Fugui swept Xie Tao a fierce glance, drove away and went straight to a nearby hotel. On the other hand, Qin Ming didn't bother with the small matter of the dinner party, he was heading to the Bund where the rich yachts were gathered. Qin Ming arrived at a marina where yachts were parked and looked at a variety of yachts of different sizes. He saw the largest one at a glance, and he couldn't recognize the model or brand, but the area was quite empty, so it was obviously not a place where ordinary people's yachts could get close to. The car pulled up to the dockside and Qin Ming got out, flanked on either side by black-clad bodyguards from the assassination team, clearing the scene and keeping a vigilant eye on the surroundings. Bai Yuan greeted them with a tablet computer and said, Young master, there are 6 of them, this is the footage taken by the filming tools they prepared themselves. Qin Ming watched the video, it could be said that it was evidence of these people's crime, recording the kidnapping of Nai Haitang, who had been put in the car after being captured, then transferred to the hotel to be tied up, following the gang's hearts to go straight to dinner. What a coincidence that they actually ate at the same place as Qin Ming and were caught by Qin Ming. Qin Ming had seen the video, and although it proved that Nai Haitang had not suffered any harm, he was still very angry inside. After all, the kidnapping had actually happened. He asked with a cold face, where are they? Bai Yuan also raised the corners of his mouth coldly and said, all hanging outside the deck of the ship. Chapter 82. Qin Ming walked onto the luxury yacht, which was big enough to host company parties and large birthday parties. It was a godsend for picking up girls. Once out at sea, women had to lie down. It worked better than any luxury car. Qin Ming was in no mood to admire his luxury yacht as he followed his men to the deck. 6 men, 5 men, and 1 woman, could not find out their nationalities, but each was blindfolded so that none could see Qin Ming. All their belongings were turned over. Apart from the drugs to make people unconscious, there were guns, and some first aid medication. Qin Ming walked over to the blonde, who was tied hand and foot, and fell backwards up, her skirt pulled down to reveal black hip stockings and a long, slender leg. Bai Yuan pulled the pulley and aligned the blonde's face with Qin Ming's. Qin Ming asked in English, "Who sent you here?" The blonde, inexplicably surprised, asked in English, "Are you Boss Chang's illegitimate son? We can talk." Qin Ming smiled sarcastically. The common saying would be to think of him as old Chang's illegitimate son, right? Those people didn't understand Chang Hengzi's loneliness, and Qin Ming didn't bother to explain. Perhaps the illegitimate son status would be recognized by more of old Chang's men, and he didn't care. Qin Ming squeezed the blonde's throat and said in English, "I am a devil who will squeeze you to death at any time." The blonde now conceded and said, "Gods above, I mean you no harm. We are only mercenaries, and since we have failed, I will no longer appear in front of you. Please let me go." Qin Ming laughed coldly in his heart. This woman was only thinking of her own life. Could it be that they were not a gang? Qin Ming asked one of the men again, saying, "Who sent you here?" The foreign man said stiffly, "I won't say anything." "Fuck you." Qin Ming frowned and gave Bai Yuan a wave to do something. Boom. With a sudden gunshot, the foreign man was covered by his throat, unable to make a sound, and then the man was thrown down into the sea with a crash. The foreign man's hands and feet were tied, and he could only keep struggling in the water, writhing like a fish. This series of movements made the other 5 men tremble with fear. They were blindfolded, and judging by their ears alone, this had obviously been an act of murder and extermination, but in reality the man was just dragged away and put in the water to be tortured. Qin Ming asked another foreign man, "Who sent you here?" "Hey man, calm down, we can talk." Boom. Another shot rang out and the foreign man was again muffled, unable to make any sound, and then the man was thrown into the sea in the same manner. Qin Ming asked for a third. The man knew that one bad answer and he would surely die. Under the pressure of such death, any integrity and credibility would become fragile. The third mercenary said, "I said, don't hurt me, I said." It was a man called Chang Huan who ordered us to investigate the bastard behind his boss. Chang Huan? Qin Ming frowned. He had roughly read the information of those unrelated children of Chang Hengzi. Chang Huan was the oldest, 32 years old, currently doing fund investment in Wall Street in M. As Chang Hengzi's family, they should have known that Chang Hengzi had given his entire inheritance to Qin Ming, and were also desperate to find him. Qin Ming knew who had done it and said to Bai Yuan, "Pull this woman to my room, you handle the others." Bai Yuan's eyes flicked to the blonde with a meaningful smile and looked at her. Whether it was her body or face, she was indeed worth a shot. As soon as Qin Ming led the blonde away, Bai Yuan's men came up and asked, "Captain, what about these people?" A little angry, Bai Yuan made a gesture of slitting his neck and said, "Old Fei, what kind of person can keep a secret? Do I need to teach you? Don't give the young master any trouble." The henchman understood mentally and immediately went to do so. Inside the yacht's room, the blonde was tied hand and foot, blindfolded and thrown inside the sofa, while there were only Qin Ming and her in the room. Qin Ming looked at this woman, who belonged to the petite series of foreign women, with long thin legs, waspish waist, attractive breasts not too big but not too small to match her figure. The long brownish blonde hair was particularly neat, and her melon face had a particularly youthful charm. Qin Ming was quite surprised that such a beautiful woman, who would normally be the dainty wife of many rich men in their rooms, was doing such a dangerous job. The blonde tried to say in Chinese, "By the sound of your voice, you are very young, the young richest man in the world, congratulations, surpassing everyone and holding the most horrible wealth in the world." Listening to the pronunciation, it was actually quite a standard Beijing accent. But Qin Ming didn't take the bait and continued in English, "Do you want to live, or do you want to die?" The blonde put her legs together and sat on the sofa in a small woman's stance, puffed out her chest and said with a flirtatious gesture, "Are you willing to lay your hands on a beautiful woman like me? I've heard that men in China are very good at taking pity on Jade." Qin Ming continued in English, "Besides pitying Jade, our Chinese men will also destroy flowers with their hot hands." The blonde beauty smiled back and said flirtatiously, "I'm afraid the 5 of them have already been dealt with by you, right? But you left me alone, and what else could it be but a fascination with me? I don't like rough men, love me well." Qin Ming narrowed his eyes. He kept this woman, not in pity or to grass up, but to let her carry a message back to those who coveted him, not to hit on the Nai family. Qin Ming took a deep breath, changed his mood and tone, and said, "Oh, I'm keeping you, because I want you to go back and pass on a message. You go back and tell Chang Huan, an old Chinese saying, 'Those who obey me prosper, those who disobey me die.'" The blonde beauty was slightly moved. She seemed to hear Qin Ming's dominance and determination from these words of Qin Ming. Suddenly, the corner of the blonde's mouth was hot. Indeed, Qin Ming had stolen a kiss from her on account of her being blindfolded. After Qin Ming had taken advantage of her, he laughed loudly, "Ha ha, unexpectedly, right? You've been desecrated by me. Don't come back to China. When you go back, you won't be needed to deliver a message next time." The blonde's expression was surprised, yet she whirled around with a relieved look, while biting her lip again, wondering why Qin Ming was willing to let her go. Had she really conquered him with her charm? Qin Ming got up and walked to the door just as Bai Yuan knocked on the door and came in. Qin Ming lowered his voice, and deliberately didn't lower it too much, and said, "Continue to use the Nai family and put in a long line to catch a big fish." The blonde's body moved and listened carefully, and her heart was overjoyed that this young master was still young and had revealed his horse's foot. It turned out that the Nai family was just the bait deployed by this young master. They had all been tricked. Bai Yuan was also smart. He deliberately did not lower his voice too much and responded, "Don't worry, young master, the bait and net are always ready. Once they come they are finished." Qin Ming finished his act and said flatly, "All right, let her go. My grandmother is seriously ill and I have a trip back to Beijing. Book me the fastest flight." The blonde secretly remembered these words. She felt that she had taken credit for this time. What the blonde hadn't expected was that her misinformation had successfully led all those investigating Qin Ming's identity astray. All those people thought that the Nai family was a deliberate front set up by Qin Ming, and at the same time, in order to investigate Qin Ming's identity, they all ran to Beijing. Qin Ming didn't need to bother with the latter. He was the boss and didn't need to worry about those trivial matters. After taking care of these matters, Qin Ming got off the boat and came to the Bund Pier, the wooded green road. He looked around and muttered to himself, "It seems I have to speed up the consolidation of my forces and familiarize myself with the domestic industries and subordinates in China to avoid traitors." Chapter 83. Qin Ming walked along the pier of the Bund and took some pictures of the Bund scenery, a yacht next to each other, the blazing sun, seabirds calling and flying, quite a leisurely and comfortable way to relax Qin Ming's nerves after a sensitive day. Qin Ming stretched out towards the sea and lamented, "Ah, it's great to be rich." If he hadn't inherited Chang Hongxi's entire fortune, Qin Ming wouldn't have had the chance to enjoy this comfortable atmosphere on the Bund and would probably be delivering takeaways at some fast food restaurant right now. Oops. Suddenly, he saw an uncle in front of him fall to the ground carrying the tools and buckets of water for cleaning the yacht. Qin Ming went up to help the uncle up and said, "Uncle, are you all right? The uncle sighed and said, huh? Young man, thank you, I'm fine, I'm old and not useful anymore, I feel tired after only washing one boat. Qin Ming said, take a break if you are tired, money is inexhaustible, but your body is for life. Why don't I help you? The uncle looked wary and pushed Qin Ming's hand away, shaking his head, all right, young man, I'll be grateful to you if you don't take my work. Qin Ming was stunned that he had been taken for a robber, but yes, these yachts needed someone to take care of them on a daily basis, and it was quite profitable to get extra money. Qin Ming was about to explain when a sarcastic voice came from the double-decker yacht. Ha, Qin Ming, you're really poor, you're actually competing with an older man for a job, shame on you. She was dressed in a sexy yellow bikini, with a thin UV protective jacket, revealing her enchanting figure to the fullest. At this time, other people came out of the boat, all of them were friends of Chen Mulan, as well as Zhao Menghua and the three brothers from the dormitory. But what surprised Qin Ming more was that people from the badminton club were actually there, Zhang Qingqing, Fang Jinsheng, and that rich boy Zhao Tuo who was pursuing Zhang Qingqing. Two circles of people who were playing together for some unknown reason. But he didn't want to stay for a moment longer, as none of these people were friendly to him, and Qin Ming didn't want to explain anything. He couldn't take them to his boat and pretend to be a pussy, could he? It would be bad if they revealed their true identities. Zhang Qingqing said speechlessly, no way. Qin Ming, you are also too? Pancaustic play? Yeah, and the end of the cocoon reprimanded plate mill play? The dissatisfied drums and glues have been used as a means of restraint. The razor clam track. The school is a great place to be. The first thing you need to do is to get to know the people you are talking to. You're not chasing after her just to see Haitang, are you? Tisk, isn't her girlfriend pregnant? And she still comes to harass Haitang? He's a scum. I heard that the girl got kicked out of school and probably had an abortion by force, a scum who starts and ends. Zhao Linio couldn't help but say, don't talk nonsense if you don't know, it was that Li Meng who cheated on her and faked her pregnancy to deceive people. But no one cared about Zhao Linio's words, after all, there was no way to wake up someone who was pretending to be asleep. Faced with these people's misunderstanding, Qin Ming's face was gloomy, wanting to explain, but not bothering to do so because he knew Nai Haitang was not here. Because, he didn't want to cause trouble for Zhao Linio and Liang Xiaoyong either. Chen Mulan was curious, oh? You know him, Sister Cheng. Zhang Qingqing said lazily, Qin Ming is originally from our badminton club. He made such a big deal before, who doesn't know him as a scum? I really don't know what he came with to do. I have kicked him out of the badminton club's group chat, he wouldn't know, right? Fang Jinsheng said, yeah? Isn't this Qin Ming? What's wrong? Out looking for a job? Right, this morning I saw him in the supermarket outside the school. It seems that his classmates opened the supermarket, giving his classmates a discount of 20 yuan an hour, still not doing it. Why? He's not broke. Panko Sai Kaemun, 0 an hour is pretty good. A girl asked curiously. Fang Jinsheng shrugged his shoulders and said, can't put a face on it, I guess, some people are like that, they want to save face and suffer. Which people laughed coaxingly, ha 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 ha, so it's not unreasonable for some people to be poor. Qin Ming turned his head and walked away, not wanting to get angry with these people. They didn't know anything and subjectively assumed his life, which was very ridiculous to Qin Ming. Zhang Qingqing said, oh yes, we are going out to see later, we are short of people to barbecue. Qin Ming, didn't you used to do it in a barbecue restaurant? Forget it today, you come up and do our chores and barbecue on the way. Is it okay, dear? Zhang Qingqing turned back to the back, that broad from the electrical engineering college. Zhao Tuo, wearing only a pair of sky blue cloth shorts, came out and said, Ching Ching, if you say it's okay, you're the hostess on this boat. Jiang Ching Ching said smugly, that's great dear. Qin Ming said, forget it, I have things to do. Jiang Ching Ching was annoyed and said, Tisk, you're still not satisfied with the food and drink on a luxury yacht. Do you have to count the money with me? Qin Ming, don't give shame, if you perform well, I'll consider letting you back into the badminton club to pick up the ball. Fang Jinsheng was shocked and said, President, not good such a person is the black sheep. Liang Xiaoyang hurriedly stepped forward and said, Xiaoming, don't go yet. Although those things happened later with Li Meng, Chen Mulan actually changed her attitude towards you, so how come you didn't catch it? Qin Ming smiled bitterly, shook his head and said, forget it, I appreciate my brother's good intentions. But I'm not suitable with her. Liang Xiaoyang said, suitable or unsuitable is a lie, you need to be thick-skinned to pick up girls. You see, Chen Mulan didn't say she'd let you go, so since you were invited, you should take advantage of the opportunity. When I was chasing Zhao Menghua, she didn't stop laughing at me, but she was still impressed by my sincerity and doesn't dislike me much now. Pan Jun? Can slacken the joy. Bandits. The first thing you need to do is to get a good idea of what you are doing. The first thing you need to do is to get the best out of it. Injuries. So strong and fine? Shake. Qin Ming was slightly surprised and looked at Zhao Menghua behind him, not expecting that Liang Xiaoyang had such a good eye and had found a more reliable girlfriend. Qin Ming looked over, although he was looking at Zhao Menghua, but Chen Mulan was also standing on the side, so it was easy to misunderstand that he was looking at Chen Mulan. Chen Mulan remembered how Qin Ming had sat outside the hospital all afternoon for him, and the desperate look in her eyes when she rejected her. Although it was a misunderstanding, Chen Mulan took it seriously. She saw Qin Ming looking over and was inexplicably torn. The girl beside her said, Ling Ling, you can't be soft-hearted, this is a slag. He's picking up several girls at the same time. At this time, Zhao Linea came over and said, brother, since you've been invited, stay, Xiao Peng is seasick, it's good for you to help take care of him. When Zhao Linea said this, Qin Ming also nodded and said, I'm all for taking care of young Peng. As Qin Ming got on board, Fang Jinsheng said disdainfully, you can really pretend, you have to be begged before you will get on board. Humph, you must be looking for Haitang, right? I've heard that you even went to Haitang's class to look for her. But don't think too much about it, Haitang won't come today. Qin Ming said, none of your business, the president invited me. Fang Jinsheng said disdainfully, it's true that people are shameless, and so it is, a poor man like you. Pan Jun? The company's main business is to provide a wide range of services and services. The company's main business is to provide a wide range of services to the public. The actual theft of the hamlet is forgiven. When Qin Ming entered the cabin, Chen Mulan suddenly approached him. The first thing you need to do is to make it clear that he doesn't like Chen Mulan, so that you don't have to be in trouble all the time. How embarrassing is that? How unexpectedly, Chen Mulan handed Qin Ming a men's swimsuit and said, change into it, look at your outfit, how rustic. Qin Ming was stunned, what was wrong with this? Chapter 84. Qin Ming took the beach swim trunks that were handed to him and was a little confused as to why Chen Mulan would give him this. The fabric was quite high grade. Chen Mulan said in a cold voice, don't misunderstand and think I forgive you. I just remembered that day at the hospital, no one was willing to help me, but you helped me, so we are even. Qin Ming smiled sarcastically and said, thank you. Chen Mulan was not impressed and said, also, don't try to pick me up, don't always follow me and have thoughts about me just because you are friends with Sister Hua Hua and the others. I am simply from 2 worlds from you, don't make a fool of yourself again. By the way, that Bai Yuchun, did she become your girlfriend? Qin Ming shook his head and said, I'm friends with her. Chen Mulan looked as if she was really like that and said, so, it's also true, although her family is poor, she is also the school flower, and there are many rich kids pursuing her, so it's not possible to climb up the branch and become a phoenix in the future. Qin Ming changed into his swimming trunks and came to the multimedia living room. Seeing Sun Hepeng, who was a bit seasick, he wrung a hot towel for his good brother and made some lemon water and medicine for seasickness. Sun Hepeng smiled and said, "Thanks brother, what brings you here?" Qin Ming said, "I was worn down by brother Niu and Yang Yang. I can see that you three are also weak here. Those people in Zhangqing have poisonous mouths, those detractors of Chen Mulan are snobs. I am here, you will also be less talked about." Sun Hepeng smiled awkwardly, "None of this matters, what's a few mocked words when you can get on such a luxurious yacht?" At this time, Zhang Qingqing walked over and said, "Hey, Qin Ming, go to the warehouse and get the wine and ingredients ready, we're going out to sea soon, we all need to eat after swimming." Seeing this, Zhao Menghua and Liang Xiaoyang also said, "Let's help out together." Zhang Qingqing immediately crossed her arms and said, "How can we do that? You are Muling's friends, and you are also my guests. Guests should enjoy themselves, otherwise I would be underestimated by that girl Muling. Leave it to Qin Ming, he used to do this in the badminton club." Qin Ming smiled and said, "It's okay, you guys play. I'll do this." The yacht went out to sea, with super high music playing inside and outside the cabin, and the crowd was dancing and drinking on the deck. Qin Ming, on the other hand, was preparing fruits, drinks, cakes, barbecues and so on, basically working alone. On deck Zhao Tuo, Zhang Qingqing, Chen Mulan and others were having a great time, and one couple from the badminton club was already rolling in their room yet. But there's one thing to be said for rolling in bed while listening to the sea, it really is a different kind of enjoyment. Qin Ming was still honestly making fruit platters, pouring wine, cooking food, and watching the guys on the deck jump in the sea and swim, come up and jump again with pleasure. As for applying sunscreen to beautiful women, a classic bridge in TV dramas, it was not his turn. When he was tired of playing, Liang Xiaoyang and Zhao Menghua came over to help and asked, "Xiaoming, I heard that Chen Mulan gave you these beach swimming trunks." Qin Ming looked at his swim trunks and said, "Yeah, what's wrong?" "A good thing." Zhao Menghua said, "She didn't buy men's swimming trunks in the first place." "But what about the pair of beach swim trunks she went off the boat to buy for you before she went out to sea? It's still hidden." Qin Ming's heart twitched as he responded, "She said she was just repaying me for the favor I did for her last time at the hospital." Liang Xiaoyang raised his eyes and said, "Doesn't that mean that he doesn't hate you much? Look at your badminton club, they're all hitting on Chen Mulan. You mustn't catch on." Qin Ming laughed, he was single now but felt quite good. Zhao Menghua said, "I just asked Ling Ling for you, he said he doesn't particularly hate you, but he kind of hates you, so that proves you still have a chance. Qin Ming, we have helped you this far, if you don't grasp it yourself, don't blame us." Qin Ming was crying and laughing, this kind of help was really getting more and more helpful. Suddenly, there was an alarming cry from the front, "Ah! Why is the yacht out of battery?" At that moment, a middle-aged uncle ran over and said to Zhao Tuo, "It's not good Zhao Xiao, the boat is leaking oil, the fuel has leaked out." Zhao Tuo was stunned and said angrily, "How can that be? This is a Shire endeavor, how can it be leaking fuel?" The uncle who was driving the boat said awkwardly, "Young Zhao, although it's a Hiri brand, it's a used one after all. It's only 500,000, and it hasn't been serviced for a long time, so it's hard not to guarantee that something will go wrong." Shit. Zhao Tuo was so depressed, he had thought of driving his dad's yacht to pretend to be a man, but he met this kind of thing halfway, and with the sea all around them, wouldn't they be stuck at sea? The group panicked as the yacht was quite far out to sea, and someone exclaimed, "There's no mobile phone signal." "No? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Wait for help. How can we wait for help when we can't even contact the outside world? It's all because of you, Qin Ming. Even if you're poor, you've had a lot of bad luck and got us stuck at sea. Qin understood that the person who said this knew Fang Jin's Hung. This guy was really getting more and more brainless in order to discredit him. Zhao Tuo asked anxiously, "Where's the satellite communicator? Isn't there a satellite communicator?" The uncle who was driving the ship said awkwardly, "It's broken and hasn't been repaired yet." When the people heard this, they became even more desperate. Wouldn't they be trapped at sea? Qin Ming was also cursing in his heart as he listened. So it was a second-hand boat, but it hadn't been properly serviced, and now the group was stuck at sea. This Zhao Tuo was really unreliable. No, since the first time Zhao Tuo invited the badminton club to dinner, this person is unreliable. Every time there is a mess. Suddenly, Chen Mulan pointed at a yacht not far away and exclaimed, look, there's a bigger boat across the street. Wow, it seems to be very new." The crowd followed her finger and saw that there was indeed a bigger white yacht coming. Zhao Tuo's boat only had 2 floors and a total of 3 rooms, while the one across the street had 4 floors and a helicopter landing pad. The crowd was shouting and finally attracted the boat over. When the boat drew over, the person who came over was Bai Yuan, and Qin Ming was stunned to realize that it was his own boat. Bai Yuan stood on the deck and looked over, asking, "What happened to your boat?" Zhao Tuo came forward with a smile on his face and said, "Boss, sorry, my boat is leaking oil and has no fuel. Can you take us back?" "I'm grateful." Bai Yuan shook his head and said, "No, you can't. When we get back, I will help you call the police for help." Zhao Tuo was anxious and said, "No, boss, then we won't be able to go back in the middle of the night." "I can pay for it, okay. My dad is the boss of Dongxing Pharmaceutical. I don't know if you know him, boss." Chen Mulan also said, "My dad is the boss of Green Harvest Food. Please take us with you and we will pay you." Zhang Qingqing also said, "Sir, we are all students, please do us a favor." Bai Yuan still shook his head. "Goodbye." Zhao Tuo hurriedly said, "Hey, please wait up." Seeing such a determined Bai Yuan, the crowd all wailed and gathered around the deck. How could they go back without a boat in the vast ocean around them? Qin Ming put his hands on his things and walked over. Zhang Qingqing said angrily, "Hey, Qin Ming, what are you squeezing for?" Qin Ming said, "I'm going to talk to him and ask him to take us with him." Zhao Tuo said in exasperation, "The other party has such a big boat, it's brand new, and that heir is super rich. We can't even look at him even though we've declared ourselves, so what's the use of a poor boy's words? Don't you understand the principle that a man's words are not enough?" Qin Ming ignored him and pushed his way to the front. He didn't want to be trapped here. He said, "Hey, wait a minute." Zhao Tuo said angrily, "Tisk, are you a brain-damaged person? Who do you think you are? Do your words work better than mine?" Chapter 85. Bai Yuan did not want to pay attention to these people. After all, he had just dealt with the foreign assassins and had to go back to his orders, but suddenly he heard a "wait a minute," and when he looked back, he found Qin Ming among a dozen people. Bai Yuan was very surprised. Why was the young master on this old yacht? He thought Qin Ming had already gone back. Qin Ming wanted to get closer so he could talk to Bai Yuan, but as everyone was in a bit of a hurry, he was pushed out. Fang Jin's Hung shouted nonchalantly, "What's the squeeze? Qin Ming, you can really say that? Who do you think you are? He is a super rich man, and his private yacht is not for you to board. Even Zhao Xiao's words don't work, so don't think you're right." The girl from the badminton club also said, "Tisk, Qin Ming, you don't want to anger people, okay? How can you talk to people? Don't make a mess. Can't you see that Zhao Xiao is working hard? You're just a poor part-time worker coming to eat and drink. Don't make trouble." If you can't help, go away, don't you know time is running out? Do you want to put everyone at risk? You're a dick, Qin Ming, do you even know the big boss? You're just a handyman. Fuck off, Qin Ming, don't get in the way, will you? Can't you see Chen Mulan is trying to win? You're not even as good as a woman. After all, Qin Ming was one person and could not squeeze through so many people. But he was pushed behind the crowd, so Bai Yuan could see him clearly instead. Qin Ming said loudly, "Hello Mr. Bai, do you still remember me? I did the cleaning for your boat last time." Bai Yuan's heart moved and he understood Qin Ming's idea of keeping a low profile and not wanting outsiders to know his identity. Bai Yuan also cooperated and said, "Hello classmate, I remember you, what is it?" "Ah." The crowd looked back at Qin Ming in unison. This guy really knew the big boss who could afford to drive such a big luxurious yacht. If he did, then there was an additional layer of relationship. As if they had caught a straw, they all looked at Qin Ming expectantly, as if he had become the last hope. Jiang Qingqing was overjoyed and said, "Qin Ming, you are finally of some use as a working emperor. Come to the front, quick, all of you move aside and let Qin Ming come over." Zhao Tuo was slightly embarrassed. He had just scolded Qin Ming for being a small person, but it turned out that people knew each other. Chen Mulan grabbed Qin Ming's hand and said, "Qin Ming, be careful what you say later, remember, don't anger people, we all depend on you if we can get back tonight." Zhao Liniu also gave Qin Ming a pep talk, "Behave well brother, show Chen Mulan." Qin Ming was speechless, he simply wanted to get back early, especially since Sun Zhepen was not feeling well from seasickness. He felt like a drama queen when he thought about it. Qin Ming walked to the front, looked across the boat at Bai Yuan and said, "Mr. Bai, our boat is out of fuel, bring some of our men with you." Bai Yuan ordered the men to bring the boat a little closer and said, "Student Qin Ming, come and talk to me." Bai Yuan gave a plank to build and Qin Ming walked over easily. Bai Yuan led Qin Ming indoors and as soon as he entered Bai Yuan immediately bowed his waist and made way for Qin Ming to go first, saying in a rush, "Young master, those foreign mercenaries are all taken care of, they will never speak again." Hearing this, Qin Ming should have taken care of those people at sea. He ignored such trivialities and threw himself on the sofa, saying, "Well done." Bai Yuan looked out of the window and across the yacht. Zhao Tuo and the others were still waiting. Curious, he asked, "Are those the young master's friends? Does the young master want to take them all back?" Qin Ming looked out of the window as he mentally contemplated who it would be better to save. Zhao Tuo's yacht was quite large and could hold a dozen people together, but it was small compared to Qin Ming's yacht that also came with a helicopter, and it would not be difficult for Qin Ming to save everyone. On the yacht across the street, Jiang Qingqing's badminton club got together and complained, "This Zhao Tuo is really unreliable, last time he invited us to dinner, he was caught back by his dad after ordering, so we didn't have any money to pay. Later on, he stood us up for a badminton game, and we couldn't go back in the rain. Today, we took his yacht out to play, and he ran out of fuel. Cut the crap, I don't know if Qin Ming can convince that boss to let us go. Qin Ming is really shit out of luck, cleaning yachts for people and knowing rich bosses. A working relationship, what's the point? That's not necessarily true, Chen Mulan's family is rich, isn't it? Zhao Tuo's family is rich, isn't it? People don't even buy it, yet they let Qin Ming go over there, proving that there's still a big gap between knowing and not knowing. Now we can only look to Qin Ming." Fang Jinsheng listened on the sidelines, rather embarrassed. Qin Ming, who at first was buried by everyone, turned out to be everyone's hope. Inside the yacht room, Qin Ming said indifferently, "There is no need to save everyone. Just save a few that have some human debt to me, some let them stay here and slowly wait for rescue." Qin Ming thought about it and said, "Just say that it is inconvenient over here, so you can only stow 9 people. The others wait for rescue. Qin Ming went back and said to the crowd, I begged that boss by and he agreed to save some of the people because he has valuable guests on his boat and can't be disturbed. Wow, great. The crowd let out an astonished cry, as if they were bound to be saved. Jiang Qingqing said very proudly, Qin Ming can do it, huh, count on you to be of some use, worthy of being my follower's little brother. Zhao Tuo was upset, but would not raise his voice at this time and bragged, Student Qin, a big help. Not only are you good at barbecue food, you also know the rich bosses, that's amazing. Chen Mulan was also impressed, well done, Qin Ming. Zhao Linia gave a thumbs up and said, little Ming cow hide. Bai Yuan walked out and said, originally, I was going back on the way, and I didn't want to see everyone drifting in this vast sea, but I have valuable guests on board, and I can't accommodate too many people, so only 9 of you can come over, including Qin Ming's classmates. As for which ones, leave it to Qin Ming to decide, I'll give you 30 minutes to prepare. If they didn't go back now and wait for help, they would have to wait until the early hours of the next day, when they would be in the middle of the ocean, cold, hungry and without electricity, who could bear it? Qin Ming, take me with you. Qin Ming, we are all from the badminton club, you were not there last time, or I helped you pick up the ball, you forget. Qin Ming, please, I have to go back tonight, I don't want to stay at sea. Qin Ming, we're friends, right? One by one, people flocked to Qin Ming, hoping he would take them with him, no one wanted to stay on. Qin Ming had never thought that these people who usually sneered at him would be so enthusiastic one day, and Zhou Ziqing of the badminton club was almost squeezing him with that pair of plump breasts. One of Chen Mulan's female friends hugged his arm, dead set in her arms, refusing to let go, and was not afraid of Qin Ming to a salty hand, no, probably expecting Qin Ming to a salty hand. Qin Ming said, okay, everyone calm down, all will go to the room and wait, I will find them one by one. Otherwise, I won't take any of you with me if you force me like this. The power of speech was now in Qin Ming's hands, and the people had no choice but to listen to him and wait in their rooms, or in the cabin or on the deck if they did not have enough room. Before Jiang Qingqing went back to her room, she gave Qin Ming a fierce glare and said, if you dare not count me, I will not let you return to the badminton club. Chen Mulan passed by Qin Ming, looking like she wanted to say something, but finally suddenly turned her head and grunted, saying nothing. Chapter 86. Qin Ming first got the 3 dormitory brothers over, and Liang Shaiyang's girlfriend, because these 4 were the best for him, Qin Ming wouldn't even think twice about it. With 4 places left, Qin Ming came to the master bedroom, where Jiang Qingqing and Zhao Tuo were packing clothes and surnamely. Jiang Qingqing said proudly, ha, I knew it, Qin Ming you would definitely come over. Qin Ming didn't have the good grace to look at Jiang Qingqing, he was only taking special care of Jiang Qingqing because of Nai Haitang's face. Qin Ming glanced at Zhao Tuo, who was annoyed because he had lost face, and said, Student Zhao Tuo should join the president. Jiang Qingqing happily said, count on you to behave, come, I'll pull you back into the group. Qin Ming was crying and laughing a little, before Li Meng's fake pregnancy had made a big deal, Jiang Qingqing had kicked him out of the group, and now she had added him back in. Qin Ming went to the guest bedroom to look for Chen Mulan, she was Zhao Menghua's best friend after all, so let's help her out. He pushed the door in, but suddenly saw a white-skinned back with a very attractive shapely body, but it was Chen Mulan who was changing her dress. Ah! Chen Mulan screamed, pervert! You don't know how to knock on the door, do you? Qin Ming was so frightened that he hurriedly closed the door and said, you don't know how to lock the door. After a while, Chen Mulan finished dressing and opened the door in shame, her pretty face glaring angrily at Qin Ming, saying, how much did you see? Qin Ming lied, you're wearing your underwear, it's almost like a bikini, what can I see? Can that be the same? A bikini is a swimsuit. Chen Mulan was furious and said, "You stinking Panjun? What is the difference between a bikini and a swimsuit? You can't be a bikini, can you? The Amaranthan is a very good way to get the most out of your life. The city's main attractions include the newest and most popular of all, the newest and most popular of all, the newest and most popular of all. The actual bikini is a great way to get the most out of your life." Qin Ming is also annoyed. Wearing underwear compared to wearing a bikini, is there a difference? You see more when you are wearing a bikini instead. Chen Mulan played temperamental and sat on the sofa and did not leave. Qin Ming said, "Okay then, I'll find someone else." When Chen Mulan heard this, although she was anxious, she said stubbornly, "I don't need your pity. Get lost. Scum. You think you can please me like this? Oh, you also underestimate me, Chen Mulan. Why don't we just wait for the rescue team to come?" Boom, Qin Ming shut the door and left without much ado. Chen Mulan suddenly looked back, dumbfounded. Qin Ming actually did not take her with him. The thought of spending the whole night on this dark boat, with boys she didn't know very well, and facing the danger of a sudden storm, made Chen Mulan panic. The more Chen Mulan thought about it, the more anxious she became, and the more tears she shed. She grabbed the things in the room and smashed them. "Qin Ming, you stinking?" The more he thought about it, the more tears he shed. The more he thought about it, the more tears he shed. The more she thought about it, the more tears she shed. "The first time I saw you, I was in a hurry. The first time I saw you, I was in a hurry." After she had finished venting, she hurriedly got up again to catch up with Qin Ming. Although she was annoyed that Qin Ming did not beg her to go on the big luxurious yacht next door, it was not the right time to lose her temper yet, and she would scold him for being shameless and scum when she got on the boat next door. But when she pushed the door open, she saw Qin Ming leaning against the wall, looking at her in a meaningful way. Qin Ming said, "What? Don't you want to leave?" Chen Mulan made a big red face and said stiffly, You. I am just going to the toilet. I'm not going to accept your charity." Qin Ming said, "Okay, pack your bags and go. If you keep acting like this, I really won't take you with me." Chen Mulan bit her lip and looked at Qin Ming, who was leaving. She was so angry that she stomped her foot. Although she was annoyed, there was no way to cure Qin Ming, so she could only meekly pick up her luggage and leave. She could only sulk in her heart, "Qin Ming, you poor? What are you doing? I don't think so. The first time I saw him, I said, you're a poor man." The countenance. The last one, Qin Ming ordered a badminton club with the last person. The last person, Qin Ming named a girl from the badminton club who had a good relationship with Nai Haitang, and a total of 9 people left in Qin Ming's boat. The others, who were not chosen, all wailed and cursed Qin Ming on the boat for being heartless and shameless scum, as unpleasant as they could be, forgetting that it was Zhao Tuo who got them into this mess. Qin Ming didn't bother to pay attention to these people, he just did his job. The crowd was confined to the third-floor function room by Bai Yuan's men, and Qin Ming was the only one who could move freely. By the time they returned to the Bund Pier, it was already dark. Zhao Tuo hurriedly informed his family that the second-hand yacht he had just bought had been in trouble and that he still had to rush to rescue the people. Later, Qin Ming learns that the sea is stormy and rescue work is difficult for a while, and Fang Jinshen's men are not rescued until midnight the next day. All that was an afterthought, and Qin Ming didn't bother with other people's business. He called Song Ying and asked about Bai Yuchun, who responded that he had already dealt with Bai Dao's treatment and that Bai Dao had not continued to make trouble. Qin Ming secretly praised his personal secretary for being so competent. He didn't ask Along to drive him back in his Big Ben and took a low-key trip to return to school on his own as a stop. But as soon as he got back to school, he was immediately surrounded by police officers. One by one, who came up to hold Qin Ming down and surround him. "Qin Ming, you're under arrest. Where is Nai Haitang? Confession is lenient, resistance is strict. Be honest, come back with us." Calling headquarters, the suspect Qin Ming has been arrested. Qin Ming was confused. What had he done? It seemed that there was a misunderstanding that he had kidnapped Nai Haitang. Soon, Qin Ming was brought back to the police station, where several experienced police officers were interrogating him. "Qin Ming, Nai Haitang's family has accused you of kidnapping her daughter. Where were you at around 11 o'clock this morning?" Qin Ming thought about it. Now he didn't know if Nai Haitang was still at the Quilong Hotel. If he said the place and went there without finding anyone, then he would really be at a loss for words. He simply said, "The Cloud Peak Villa area. I went to look for Nai Haitang at that time, but Nai Haitang's mother told me that she had gone on a blind date, so I left." "Officer, I didn't do anything." The police officer questioned forcefully. "You lied, you were motivated by love and hatred, you ambushed Nai Haitang's boss, created a car accident, injured her and kidnapped her, and destroyed the various surveillance videos of the Cloud Peak Villa area by the way." Qin Ming's face was a black question mark. Was, the surveillance of the Cloud Peak Villa area was gone? He then thought, guess Song Ying ordered someone to do it, was to cover up his whereabouts. Qin Ming said, "But I went to a friend's place for dinner after I came out of Cloud Peak Villa. Lots of witnesses. Went out again in the afternoon on a friend's yacht, and just got back." The hour-long questioning, a question that went back and forth over the course of more than an hour, asked Qin Ming a dozen times, and Qin Ming was bored with the answers. But the police also had no more evidence and could not keep the man in custody. Qin Ming was asked to leave the interrogation room and the two police officers began to exchange. "There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with this kid's words, the time and place are correct, and there really isn't anything suspicious. But from my years of experience, his expression is lying, he must be hiding something. But there's no evidence of anything. If he did kidnap someone he must have had an accomplice, but he also went to dinner in a short time, he shouldn't have had time to hide someone. The point is, how did he erase all the surveillance? The kidnapping was right under the security cameras, but no footage was obtained at all. That's unlikely for a college student majoring in economics like him." Qin Ming did have something to hide, but there was nothing he could do. He didn't know if Nai Haitang had woken up and walked away. He came out to the office lobby and caught a glimpse of Nai Haitang's family. Nai Jianmin still had a bandage on his head, and they gathered around when they saw Qin Ming. The older brother, Nai Zhengming, almost ate Qin Ming's look. "Where did you tie my sister up to?" Nai Haitang's scolding was so red from crying. "Give my daughter back, any amount of money will do, you mustn't hurt my daughter." Nai Haitang's grandmother even hit Qin Ming with her cane. "You brat, where did my granddaughter wrong you? You want to do this?" The police officers at the side pushed the agitated family members away to avoid a physical confrontation. Qin Ming took a sip of water, also feeling depressed. He was really at a loss for words. He could only say, "I didn't kidnap Nai Haitang, please believe me." "But, do you think the People's Police will believe your bullshit? Look, just now, you even sent a blackmail text message." Chapter 87. Nai Haitang's mother raised her phone and cursed angrily. "Do you think we will believe you? Even the text message demanding money has been sent. Didn't you approach our Haitang just for money? You even demanded $500,000, I'll give you $1 million and return my daughter." Qin Ming looked at that Apple Max text message and muttered, "I am the exterminator, I am under siege by the Avengers Alliance, I need to raise funds to return to Titan to prepare for a comeback. Please give the account number to send money, I will give back to you unlimited wealth when my exterminator glove is redone." Nai Haitang's mother froze, took her phone and scratched it, annoyed. "Not this scam text message, this is the one." Qin Ming saw another unmarked text message claiming to have kidnapped Nai Haitang and asking the Nai family to prepare $500,000 to be delivered to a bin in a park tonight. There were many more down the list, all sorts claiming to have kidnapped Nai Haitang and demanding that the Nai family pay money to a certain account. Isn't it obvious that the kidnapping of Nai Haitang has made people in certain circles aware of it, and this is all coming to blackmail money? Qin Ming spread both hands and said, "My phone has been away from me for over an hour. I believe the contents have also been checked. I remember that my number was blacked out by Haitang her." This immediately shut up Nai Haitang's mother, and after thinking about it, she still said, "It was your accomplice who did it. I really didn't expect to see that you, a university student, would dare to do such a thing. My poor daughter, oh. Met someone unlucky. Comrade police, please arrest him." Qin Ming rolled his eyes, not wanting to explain more. The police officer said soothingly, "Please calm down, family members, you can't arrest people indiscriminately without definite evidence. Please rest assured that we will get the person out as soon as possible." After taking another statement, Qin Ming took back his belongings and mobile phone. He walked out of the police station and Nai Zhengming was following him step by step. Qin Ming had gone to Shaxian to have a midnight snack followed, peed on the roadside followed, and went to a mobile phone shop to charge his phone bill also followed. Nai Zhengming also threatened, "If my sister loses half a hair, I want your dog's life." Qin Ming really wanted to go to the Quilong Hotel to see if Nai Haitang was there, but it was very inconvenient to be followed by Nai Zhengming all the time. As soon as Qin Ming entered the street, he disappeared like a bull into the sea. The only good thing about China is that there are so many people. In big cities, there are people everywhere, so if you lose him, you won't be able to find him again. Nai Zhengming followed up and suddenly found that Qin Ming had disappeared, cursing, "Fuck, this bastard is really weird." Qin Ming walked quickly down the pedestrian street and out of the intersection. Song Ying and the special car were already waiting for him by the roadside. Qin Ming smiled smugly, got into the Rolls-Royce and said, "Go to the Quilong Hotel." Song Ying looked out of the window and said, "Young master, we have quite a few friends in the official circles. This incident has absolutely nothing to do with young master. Do you need me to go and say hello?" Qin Ming waved his hand and said, "I am an ordinary person, it would be inappropriate for me to be taken care of too much by big people. Besides, I haven't broken any laws, so what am I afraid of? I can just solve it myself." Song Ying, however, was very dissatisfied and said, "But young master saved their Nai family, but the Nai family doesn't know how to be grateful, and they are even working against young master. It's really too abominable." Qin Ming said, "It can't be helped, Ho Qing has been temporarily transferred by me. They don't know the truth." Within a few moments, Qin Ming arrived at the Quilong Hotel, in front of the presidential suite he had opened for Nai Haitang at noon. He asked the front desk and this room had not been checked out yet. That meant that Nai Haitang was still in the room, but why hadn't she contacted her family? Qin Ming stood in front of the room, although he didn't really want to see Nai Haitang for fear of being ridiculed and questioned by her. He was really afraid that this woman, whom he had loved, would also mock him, insult him, and trample on his love and dignity as hard as Li Meng had done. He was even more afraid that, when he went in, he would find other men present. But he knew he had to face it for the sake of unnecessary trouble, and he knocked on the door anyway. Knock knock knock. Humph. The door didn't open, but a proud grunt was heard from inside. Qin Ming tilted his head. What did this hum mean? He knocked again. Knock knock knock. Humph. The door still didn't open and there was still a hum from inside, which left Qin Ming confused. Could it be that Nai Haitang was still angry? "My turtle, Missy, you are too angry, right? It's been a week since Li Meng's incident and you can't balloon up?" Qin Ming cleared his throat and said, "Hotel service, miss, your dinner has arrived, please open the door." He he he. This time, there was no hum inside, instead there was a snicker. Qin Ming was 100% sure that Nai Haitang must have been peeking at him through the cat's eyes, trying to see his embarrassment. Qin Ming thought about it and made a face for a moment, then suddenly sighed sadly, shook his head and turned his head away with a forlorn look. He counted silently in his heart, 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. With a click, the door opened and Inner Begonia walked out barefoot, biting her lip and yelling at Qin Ming with teary eyes, "Come back here." Qin Ming's tiger body shook. This voice, the emotion contained within this voice, touched his heartstrings. Qin Ming looked back and saw that Yu Ren had lost weight, her pink fists were clenched and her delicate body was trembling slightly, but that fiery gaze showed earnestness and expectation. The two could say they hadn't seen each other for a week. Originally both intended to openly talk about their romantic relationship, but as a result of that incident with Li Meng, although Qin Ming dealt with it swiftly, Nai Haitang was furious and never got a reply from Qin Ming after she fainted. Her phone was tampered with by her brother Nai Zhengming and she later became very sick from grief. Today, she has just recovered from her illness and has been kidnapped again. Nai Haitang has had an eventful week. Without saying a word, Nai Haitang went back inside the presidential suite, then huddled on the bed with her legs together, hugging her pillow in silence. When Qin Ming came in, he was pleased to see that no one else was there. But he had mixed feelings in his heart. He was not quite sure if Nai Haitang still liked him or cared for him. After a few moments of silence, Nai Haitang said, "You are quite rich, you have such an expensive presidential suite." Qin Ming laughed and said, "I don't want to condescend to you." Nai Haitang's heart fluttered, but she pouted and hummed, "Li Meng gave you a son." Qin Ming laughed, hearing that it was an angry remark, but he still explained, "Didn't I send you the video? That Li Meng thing was a lie, she wouldn't have been pregnant, she just couldn't see me well." Nai Haitang said, "Nonsense, you didn't send a video to explain." Qin Ming said, "You deleted my WeChat and blacked out my number, what's the point of me sending it?" Nai Haitang was angry, she had not blacked out Qin Ming? She was about to retort, but couldn't find a reason to do so. She thought about it and threw her phone away, humming, "The battery died a long time ago, and it was even broken by a group of kidnappers this morning." Qin Ming's face darkened. What kind of excuse was that? He was about to say something when suddenly there was a vibration of tapping on the door, only to hear the voice of Nai Haitang's mother outside the door, open up, Qin Ming, I know you're in there, what are you going to do to my daughter? I'm warning you, you're breaking the law, you'll go to jail. Go to the front desk and get the attendant to open the door. I'll stand by, the suspect may be taking hostages." The two in the room were dumbfounded. How had they found their way here? No, a man and a woman were alone in the same room. What was going to happen? Chapter 88. How could they have been discovered here? Nai Haitang also panicked when she heard the sound, a lone man and a woman, or a hotel suite. How could this be explained? Nai Haitang hurriedly pulled Qin Ming to the wardrobe and said, "Hide for a while." Qin Ming gave her a look. Now the problem was not him, but Nai Haitang. First of all, the police and the family had followed Qin Ming here. If Nai Haitang was found here, then wouldn't he be guilty of kidnapping? So, it was Nai Haitang who should be hiding and not Qin Ming. Qin Ming saw the bath, which was very large and deep, full of shower gel bubbles and facing the night view outside the tall building, so it should be Nai Haitang who had just finished taking a bath. Qin Ming looked at the water in the bathtub and suddenly had a bright idea. Not caring that it was Nai Haitang's bath water, he hurriedly undressed. Nai Haitang's expression was dumbfounded. Taking off her clothes? She subconsciously looked at the bed and thought of what Qin Ming was about to do, and suddenly her cheeks flew up in a haze as her small hands squeezed her dress skirt and said shyly, "Qin Ming, isn't this a little too early?" Even if it makes people misunderstand that we are having a room here, it's not quite the right time, right? And isn't that just catching them red-handed? Is that how you want them to acknowledge you? Isn't that a bit, well, a bit? Qin Ming picked up Nai Haitang's things and threw them all downstairs, then picked her up and ran to the bathroom. Nai Haitang was so ashamed that she covered her eyes with her hands and was picked up by Qin Ming in a princess hug. She smelled the masculine scent of a man on Qin Ming's body and her heart immediately jumped. Qin Ming grew up fighting, his body muscles are more defined, and after going to university, he often works part-time, the wind and sun, his skin leans towards bronze, the muscles of his arms bulge, strong and powerful, his manly charm is particularly prominent. Nai Haitang looked at it and couldn't help but swallow her saliva. It was the first time she had ever been hugged by a man in a princess hug, or a naked man, since she had grown up. She misunderstood that Qin Ming was trying to create the illusion of sleeping with her in order to deceive her family. Nai Haitang was very worried. Qin Ming, don't do that. It's not a good idea, my parents are conservative, they won't accept this on our wedding day. Qin Ming hurriedly said, it's too late to explain. Nai Haitang still said coyly, no, how can I be embarrassed with so many people watching? Ah! Before the words left his mouth, Qin Ming threw her into the bathtub, then poured in a large amount of body wash, followed by Qin Ming also falling into the bathtub. Ah! Nai Haitang raised her head, took a deep breath, confused by the situation, and touched the foam on her head and asked, Qin Ming, I don't have any clothes to change into. Qin Ming pushed her head down and said, don't stand up. They're coming in. Nai Haitang was thrown down, and immediately understood that Qin Ming wanted her to hide, so she passively cooperated. Oh! You should let me take a deep breath first. Click, the door opened and a large group of people came in. The police, Nai Haitang's family and relatives, and the hotel attendant, they came straight to the bathroom. When they came in, they saw Qin Ming holding his mobile phone, playing the loudest music, shaking his head and singing along, if you hadn't suddenly burst into my life, how would I have let the deadly loneliness go? You say all the words you love me, you don't do the things you love me for. Wow! What's going on with you guys? Qin Ming looked at the visitors with surprise and said, how did you follow me here? One of the policemen pulled out a tracker from Qin Ming's clothes, but it turned out that Qin Ming had been unknowingly tricked. Qin Ming said angrily, if you suspect me, then just detain me. Why play this game? Nai Haitang's mother questioned loudly, Qin Ming, where is my daughter? Where the hell have you tied her up? She's innocent, come at me if you have anything to say. Qin Ming really wanted to tell the truth, but he couldn't. He couldn't say something like your daughter was now in the water, closed up, holding onto my waist, and was about to give me a physical reaction. No, already had a physical reaction, could he? Qin Ming had seen the embarrassment of starting with a lie and subsequently having to fill it with countless lies. When things had come to this point, he also had his heart crossed and said, I didn't kidnap your daughter. That's how many times I've said it. Please go out when you have finished searching the room, I want to take a shower, or will you watch me do it? After saying this, Qin Ming stood up straight away, naked, but there was plenty of shower gel, and the places that should be covered were covered by foam. As soon as Qin Ming stood up, all the people were embarrassed and avoided it, but there was a female police officer in the crowd who stole a few glances at Qin Ming's body. Qin Ming walked out of the bathroom wrapped in a bath towel and closed the door in the process. He grunted, to try the criminal, right? Have I already been convicted? Is it appropriate for you guys to do this? The crowd was surprised, thinking that Qin Ming had really kidnapped Nai Haitang and that this time the stalking would definitely be successful, but it turned out that Nai Haitang was still not found. One of the officers smiled and said, Qin Ming, I'm sorry to bother you, and I'm grateful for your cooperation with our investigation this time. Qin Ming rolled his eyes, but was still very articulate and said, "It's okay, cooperation between the police and the public is what we contemporary university students should do. I also hope the police can find Nai Haitang as soon as possible, I'm worried about her too." "He's lying," Nai Zhengming said in an exasperated voice. "He's a poor Panjun? Can the installment be chased after the empty strain?" The hotel waiter came over and said, "I don't know what to say." The hotel attendant came over and said, "The registrant is called Qin Ming." Nai Zhengming said, "Officer, this Qin Ming's family is poor, a poor student, he usually lives beyond his means, how can he have money to enjoy the presidential suite?" Qin Ming grunted, "I earned the money from my part-time job, so I came to enjoy it, I'm willing. I was supposed to have a date, but after you guys made it so badly, the canon didn't even dare to come, so you should think about how to compensate me." Nai Haitang's mother almost collapsed, grabbing Qin Ming's bath towel and pulling and shouting, "No, I don't believe you. You're the one who kidnapped my daughter, you and Stinky Panjun? You and the Stinking? What are you doing? You're the one who kidnapped my daughter. What's the difference? The longest time in the world the first time I saw you, I was a little bit of a jerk. Also for the die beat? The first thing you need to do is to get a copy." Nai Zhengming also said, "Officer, since we can't find him for now, let's put him in custody first, his accomplices will definitely not dare to do anything to my sister." Qin Ming was furious, he didn't even bother to explain, he had saved Nai Haitang and was still wrongly accused of being a kidnapper. Suddenly, Nai Jianmin's mobile phone, Nai's father, who hadn't spoken, rang. As soon as the call was answered, a familiar voice came out, "Hello, Dad." The crowd jolted and looked back at Nai Jianmin, who was also a bit confused with the phone in his hands. It was indeed his daughter's voice. Nai Jianmin burst into tears and said, "My dear daughter, where are you? Are you okay?" Nai Haitang said, "Dad, I'm fine, I'm fine. I had an accident this morning, but I was saved and I'm still on my way home. My phone is broken, so I can't contact you, this is the phone I borrowed from someone else." Nai Jianmin said excitedly, "It's good that you're all right, where are you?" "I'm sending someone to pick you up." Nai Haitang said, I'm at? I don't know where this place is either, I'm not familiar with it, I'll contact you when I get to the station, don't worry, I'm fine, let's talk about what we have back." After hanging up the phone, the atmosphere in the room was a little awkward. Apparently, everyone had gotten the wrong direction and misunderstood Qin Ming. Only then did Qin Ming remember that he had forgotten to take his mobile phone out just now, and it should have been Nai Haitang who had used his mobile phone to help him out. Qin Ming was suddenly full of energy and said, "Humph, humph, good for you guys, you've wronged me for so long, you even kidnapped me to the police station and followed me to the hotel, that's too much. You guys scared away all the chicks I asked out, make up for it." An old policeman in the crowd said, "Classmate, it's against the law to prostitute yourself." The corners of Qin Ming's mouth twitched and he hastily changed his tone, "Misunderstanding, misunderstanding, I just asked a friend to come here to talk about life and ideals. He. A female police officer covered her mouth and snickered, apparently really misunderstanding Qin Ming's intention to visit a prostitute tonight. Chapter 89. Nai Haitang had even called back to report her safety, so this misunderstanding could be said to be big. Nai's mother and Nai Zhenming's mother and son looked particularly ugly, they had always been certain that it was all Qin Ming's doing, that Qin Ming had kidnapped Nai Haitang. He was the poor Panjun eunuch. About Han Huang play? The scopolamine gadfly you crow? Their words also caused a great deal of misinformation to the police, and especially to Qin Ming's reputation. The company's main business is to provide a wide range of products and services to the public. They know they are wrong, but they are still fine. They all called me shameless, huh, some people don't even want their conscience. Nai Zhengming listened to this accusation, he heaved a grunt and scolded, "What do you mean? You're a poor man from the bottom of society?" The company's main business is to provide a wide range of products and services to the public. After saying that, Nai Zhengming directly walked away. The mother of Nai Haitang is more embarrassed, she also followed to go, and then stay not shame? So many people were watching, it was already ugly enough. Fiercely, Nai Jianmin yelled out, "Stop right there, you two." The feet of Nai Zhengming and Nai Jianmin's wife seemed to be nailed to the ground as if they were not moving at all. Pointing at Qin Ming, Nai Jianmin said, "We caused Qin Ming a lot of trouble today, we can't just walk away, we should admit what we did wrong and make amends to people." Nai Zhengming, what did I usually teach you? Have you forgotten everything? Nai Zhengming's face turned red and he looked at Qin Ming, as if he desperately did not want to apologize. He held his face red and could not say a word. Qin Ming, calm and collected, said, "Forget it, Mr. Nai, Haitang and I were classmates too. This is a small matter, and I won't let her brother be embarrassed. This is my room, please get out." The first part of the sentence was very polite, but the last part, "get out," highlighted the essence. Nai Zhengming's face became even uglier, his chest heaving with anger, but in the end he didn't say a word and walked away quickly. "Hey you!" Nai Jianmin was so angry that his old face was pulled down. He had to apologize in place of his family and said, "Classmate Qin Ming, we misunderstood you again about this incident. I hope you can forgive us." Qin Ming was rather kind to Nai Jianmin, and although he also despised Qin Ming, his attitude was much better and more sensible. Qin Ming said, "All right, get out. I haven't finished showering yet." Now that Nai Haitang knew about it and the police had apologized, Qin Ming was cleared of suspicion and he and Nai Haitang were finally left in the presidential suite. Qin Ming unlocked the door this time to make sure no one could disturb him. He walked to the bathroom and saw Nai Haitang, drenched and dripping, looking at him too. Qin Ming was about to say something when he shifted his feet and suddenly the bath towel fell off his body, exposing the thing in his trousers. Nai Haitang was shocked and looked down, suddenly letting out a thunderous scream before flinging a slap across her face. "Qin Ming, you bastard, lecher. My eyes, what the hell have I been looking at, why did that thing get bigger? Ah, I want to wash my eyes." Qin Ming was so embarrassed, he hurriedly picked up the bath towel and wrapped it around him. He was also depressed. This kind of situation, didn't it always happen to girls in his dramas, and it was cheaper for the boys? Why was he the one who suffered the loss? The one who took advantage was Nai Haitang? After a while, Qin Ming washed up and came out to see Nai Haitang sitting on the bed with a blush on her face, not saying a word. Nai Haitang's eyes moved with Qin Ming's movements, and something oddly shaped in her mind lingered, making her body continue to heat up. Qin Ming said embarrassedly, "That, I really didn't mean it just now." Nai Haitang bristled, not wanting to talk about what had just happened, or else her mind would go out of whack again. She changed the subject and said, "Thank you, Qin Ming, you saved me again." Qin Ming smiled heartily, and at the same time was happy in his heart that Nai Haitang had not cut him off like Li Meng had, nor had she humiliated him. He said, "I am willingly." Suddenly, Nai Haitang stood up holding the futon and moved towards him step by step, gradually walking in front of Qin Ming. Qin Ming looked at Nai Haitang, not knowing what she was up to, but the atmosphere was a bit charming, making his heart pound and his blood circulate faster. He scratched his head and his eyes flickered slightly. "What's wrong? Did I not wash clean?" Net staring at me. Nai Haitang nuzzled her mouth, her eyes blazing, her pretty face dainty and adorable, causing people to pity her. At this moment, she was obviously more energetic than at noon, and her person was also much more energetic. Nai Haitang asked, Li Meng is really not pregnant? She lied to us. Qin Ming nodded and responded, yes, she has now been suspended from school for half a month because of the impact she has had on my reputation. Nai Haitang nodded and added, I didn't pull your number, it was probably my brother who took advantage of my illness to do it. Qin Ming's heart twitched with wild joy, so it wasn't Nai Haitang who did it, he misunderstood Nai Haitang, so that means Nai Haitang didn't hate him. Beep beep beep. Suddenly, the phone rang with a bang. Qin Ming answered the phone and asked, hello? Pure, something wrong? Nai Haitang raised her eyebrows, she was very close to Qin Ming, she could hear the soft female voice in the phone very clearly, and Qin Ming's pure almost made her choke, her heart became very confused. What was their relationship? Cousins? Best friends? Sister? Colleagues? Qin Ming suddenly exclaimed, what? Your mother was kicked out? I don't know where she is now. Tisk, is your sister-in-law still a human being? Qin Ming hung up the phone and said very anxiously, I'm sorry Haitang. A friend of mine has had an accident at home and the situation is very troubling, I need to go and help. Your parents are also worried about you, so I'll call a friend's car to take you back later. Nai Haitang's heart tightened, she still had many things to say to Qin Ming, even if she had to talk about them all night. But Qin Ming was about to leave after taking a call from some woman. In this instant, it was as if something had been drained from Nai Haitang's heart, something she had been holding tightly was snatched away from her. She froze for a moment, only to find that Qin Ming had already walked to the door. Nai Haitang pulled the futon and hurriedly chased after her, saying, Qin Ming, stop right there. When she looked up again, Qin Ming had already disappeared. Her mother had been scolded by her daughter-in-law in the rented room for an hour for breaking the sweet potato trolley, and she had been kicked out. He Mengarili left in a fit of anger. Bai Yuchun had been searching for more than an hour and could not find it, so she came to Qin Ming for help when she really had no other choice. An old man who had just had heart surgery, where could she go in a big city where she was unfamiliar? If something happened to him, he would really be dead. Although Qin Ming was a bit sorry for Nai Haitang's sudden departure, he could not help it, as human life was at stake. He left Song Ying and the car to take Nai Haitang back, and rushed to the hospital entrance, where she saw Bai Yuchun, who was already squatting on the ground and crying. Chapter 90. When Bai Yuchun saw Qin Ming coming, it was as if she had seen a savior, crying while holding Qin Ming's hand, Qin Ming. Oh. What to do, my mom, oh. My mom was kicked out of her rental house by my sister-in-law, her mobile phone is not working, she can't be found, and she hasn't returned to the hospital. It's been almost 2 hours. Woo. Since I was a child, my mother. Woo. Is the best for me, woo. I'm afraid. Bai Yuchun cried pearly tears, her lapel was soaked through, she was so aggravated and worried. She tugged on Qin Ming's hand particularly strong, lest Qin Ming leave her, which was so strong that Qin Ming was surprised, her eyes were full of expectation and gratitude. Qin Ming gently patted her back to smooth her breath a bit and said, don't be afraid, it will be fine. Bai Yuchun's head nodded like a chicken pecking rice, thank you for coming, Qin Ming, I don't know what I would have done without you. Slowly, Bai Yuchun's emotions also quieted down, she wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, but it was hard to hide her red eyes, and her clear face still had an anxious look written all over it. At this time, Bai Dao his daughter-in-law came out. Bai Dao's wife asked calmly, what's wrong? Did you find someone? Qin Ming narrowed his eyes and questioned, throwing your own mother-in-law out of the house, thanks to you, you can't do that. Sister-in-law Bai said with a strong voice, "Who told her to break my sweet potato cart? What? It's my tool for earning money. Without it, how can I earn money? How can I earn money without my car? And she's having a mountain of food for lunch and you guys, and she'd rather pack it up for that snobbish relative to take home than for us to pack it back. I'm unlucky to have a mother-in-law like her." After scolding her, Bai's sister-in-law said in an exasperated voice, "In the afternoon, Deo made trouble with the hospital, asking it to give Deo the same benefits as her. She came back in her boss's secretary's car, so she was able to climb the ladder, right? As a result, she actually didn't help to plead for mercy and said that she was well and didn't need follow-up treatment. Isn't that a pit? How can she be such a mother? She has no money to pay for her son's medical bills and has gambling debts. Has she helped? Does she have the face to live in our rented house?" Bai Yuchun was furious and argued, "That's because they took pity on her and gave her a free operation. Can we still ask for so much? You can't get too far ahead of yourself. Yuck." Sister-in-law Bai was furious and frothing at the mouth, cursing, "You won't make a profit if you have a bargain? She is the only one who is pedantic. Am I wrong to scold? I only scolded her a few times and she ran away on her own. What's it to me?" Bai Yuchun was so anxious that she stomped her feet and said, "Where can Ma go at this time of night? What if something happens to her?" Sister-in-law Bai said, "Why are you panicking? She's not demented, why would she get lost? She doesn't have much money on her, so she's safe from thieves. Guangzhou is a big city and there are police patrols in the middle of the night. If she is lost and sent to the aid station, she can still be found. If you don't give her some pain, she won't know." Slap. A sudden slap landed on Bai's sister-in-law's face. Qin Ming could no longer control his hand, a vicious slap that made Bai's sister-in-law's tan skin red. Bai Yuchun was startled, clenching her fists nervously and shrinking her shoulders, while surprisingly feeling incomparably happy in her heart. Qin Ming, who had flung the slap, seemed like a hero in her mind. You. Sister-in-law Bai pointed at Qin Ming, unable to speak for a long time, and finally stifled a sentence, "Brother-in-law, take it easy, sister is not targeting you. The actual fact is, you'll be able to get a lot of time. My sister-in-law is looking for you, can you borrow some money? Don't worry, my sister-in-law is not going to gamble, she's doing some business, and when she makes money later, she will definitely pay you back." Qin Ming hummed, "In fact, my 300,000 odd yuan is the money of my clients, and I invest in stock speculation on their behalf. So, if you guys want to borrow money from me, no way." "What?" Sister-in-law Bai was dumbfounded and suddenly regretted exclaiming, "That's not your money? Then what are you pretending to be at lunch? You're acting like you're a millionaire. You're fooling me with the client's money, I'm sorry, you poor? You're a poor man? The actual fact is that you'll be able to get a lot more than just a few of these. I don't know what to say. Gee, you're really pissing me off, you've got me fooled so hard. Rolls-Royce, know what brand? That's his, anyway, it's a big international level brand. Our Pure came back in a Rolls-Royce at noon today. You've never seen one in your life. People's tycoons are just too busy, but they haven't forgotten about our Pure, and they are arranging hospital surgery for our Pure, and they are sending secretaries and special cars to pick up and drop off. In the future, our Pure is a noblewoman married into a rich family, you don't even deserve to drive our Pure as a chauffeur. What about you? What do you have? You have a dick." Sister-in-law Bai couldn't beat Qin Ming, and despite being slapped, she couldn't have a fit, but she stormed out and cursed at him, especially knowing that Qin Ming's money wasn't his own, but that of his clients. The money was not Qin Ming's own, so there was no way to borrow it, and Bai's sister-in-law did not look good. Qin Ming had also known about her attitude and said disdainfully, "You're just Pure's sister-in-law, who are you to tell her what to do here? Have you ever cared for her? When you and your wife took the money she borrowed from the credit company, did you ever think that she was your sister? Are you going to pay that money back?" Dumbfounded by the refutation, Bai's wife immediately changed the subject and said, "What do you know, an outsider? How poor was our family in the past? If my son hadn't earned money, would there have been money for her mother and children to eat? Now that your wings are hardened, you want to rebel, don't you? Bai Yuchun, do you know how to be grateful for having raised you so much?" Qin Ming looked at Bai Yuchun, who was biting her lip in aggression again, unable to retort. This person was really hopeless. The double standard was so serious. Why didn't he think about Hemenga raising Bai Dao? Qin Ming was speechless. He inexplicably thought of his big brother. Qin Ming was happy and lucky. His big brother left him the opportunity to study at university and went to work by himself. When Qin Ming was hungry as a child, his elder brother would also leave his own food for Qin Ming. The three siblings in their family were all quite close. Qin Ming pulled Bai Yuchun over and said, "Come on Pure, let's go find your mother." Bai's sister-in-law cursed and said, "Find a fart, it's better to die outside." Qin Ming said, "You'd better not regret it." Sister-in-law Bai shouted, "What do I regret? You're a poor man? Pan Cow Amaranthan Liquid Calabash C Stirrups F Hook Glare Salty Second Resistance. Eris. Every sudden why that? What's the problem? What are you doing? What is the best way to get the most out of your visit? The information is available in the following materials. What is the name of the company? What's the problem? Counters. The food and plutonium are used in the food industry. The information is not available in the form of a calendar. The haggard and happy? The stranger salt blink? The moraine rabbit flash recites the facsimile. As the saying goes, every family has a hard time reading a book. It is really difficult to sort out the cause and effect of the Bai Yuchun family in this state, and Qin Ming did not want to bother with it. He had thought it over, and he would use the most direct method.